Hello, everyone. You are welcome to today's session, the DevOps session series. Right. This is just a few of our links. Just in case you haven't followed us, you can follow us on the Meetup, the Twitch link, the YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and the Telegram group. The idea of all of this is to get updated with all the programs and the trainings we are going to be running for this period. All right, I'm going to be your moderator for this evening. My name is Promise Uche Onwachku. I'm an active member of the Azure Nigeria group, and this session for the evening promises to be a very, very wonderful one. Now, before I delve into the session, I would just like to inform you that this training is going to continue next week. We're going to have the training next week for the Azure Administrator Live series, which we'll be holding on next week, and we'll be looking at the virtual networking. We would also be having another session for the DevOps series next week, Saturday by 6 p.m., and we'll be looking at Terraform with Azure DevOps. So I'll be diving right now to introduce our speaker for this evening. Um, our speaker for this evening will be none other than Oluwa Damilare Ibrahim. He's the head of software engineering at Ragby Business Solutions and Technologies Limited. He's also an Azure DevOps expert, a seasoned trainer, and an enterprise solution architect, currently leading the software engineering team of one of the leading Microsoft partner firms in Nigeria. Well, you can see his email address just down there, so you are always free to reach out to him. Um, Let me just take this time to introduce him once again. So, Damilare, I'm inviting you to this session. Are you there?
Thank you very much, my brother. How you doing?
Or
Good
ah,
afternoon. Sorry, good
I'm
evening.
good evening. I'm doing great. Funny enough, I've been actually looking forward to this session. I would really, really love to hear what you have to say. And I know that people also are connected and they just want to know what is DevOps tooling all about? What is the special tools to use for your DevOps environment? So the floor is all yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much once again, brother.
Yeah.
I agree, everyone. Good evening, or let me say good day from everywhere you are watching us from all over the globe, and welcome to this session, introductory session about Azure DevOps. It's always a great thing to talk to share my knowledge around DevOps, as it's something I've actually been I'm always happy to actually work with. And it's been like my forte for the past couple of years right now. Today, we'll be looking at some of the nitty gritty around Azure DevOps, so what DevOps is generally. We'll start from what DevOps is generally, and then we look at how Microsoft using as use one of their biggest tools to help improve the automation process that in all environments, in the whole development tech space. And then we can see how best we can get ourselves started, how we can immediately commence the use of this awesome tool to automate each other of our processes, and how we can actually achieve our set our goals using this awesome tool. Without much ado, everyone is free to come up with their questions at any point in time, point me out, and I'll do as much as possible to answer each one of them to the best of my understanding, and try to give you even much more in-depth knowledge about anything you're having problems with to start with. But then to start with today, we've been looking at these are some of the links to some awesome content which you will actually need during your course of adopting Azure DevOps primarily. It would be good to actually, as you already know, Microsoft has adopted open source and they love open source. And then you have an open community which is constantly improving, increasing every day with questions, contributions from various members of the community contributed their own quota to it. So without much ado, we'll be looking at what is the topic of today. What is DevOps itself? A lot of people use the word DevOps day in, day out, and in fact, you hardly will see a tech community, people talking within the next two sentences or thereabout. If somebody will already be mentioning DevOps, and you get to wonder, so what is DevOps really about? Why DevOps? Why do you really want to go into it? In the early days of engineering processes, we have various teams, separate teams concerning themselves about various part of the entire product delivery, or should I say service delivery primarily. We have the engineering team constantly interested in getting their engineering stuff done. Like I am a developer today, you get to want to focus primarily on how best to write your systems, write all the codes and everything you want to write out. And then we have the people that manage the servers, that take care of all the infrastructure, which one of the services I've written will be running on. And you always have these constant push and pull between these two bunch of people in the organization, because one always believes the other is giving him extra stress to do. So the administrators, system administrators always are faced with numerous problems of maintaining the services that are constantly running. Where you see developers constantly says the common keyword, it works fine on my PC, and the administrators, or let me say system maintainers, keep coming back to you and say, no, it's not working in production. And then the push and pull constantly move on. Then the tech community look at it and see how best can we actually bring these two communities, these two individual stakeholders together in order to actually fast track the value delivery streams to their end customers in itself. And that is what DevOps really is all about. Is by definition, DevOps is the union of people, process, and product to enable continuous delivery of value to their end customer. At the end of the day, it's all about the value you get to deliver to your customers, and you can only foster this value if the internal teams are able to constantly work together, work in harmony with the central goal of delivering primary values to our customers, and that's the only way we can actually get the best out of both worlds. And the entire delivery process all commences from the planning process, ideation of each one of the each one of the ideas that you actually have day in, day out, to putting those ideas right into standard plans, which are to be followed up. And you have the development, developing those ideas into concrete plans, that into concrete entities that needed to be actually done, to how this idea is being built out, the whole develop idea is being built out and tested properly for quality assurance, then deployed right into production environment, and then you continue to operate it by constantly delivering value to the customer. And then the whole stream doesn't end there. It all continues to constantly learning from the customers and gathering each one of these feedbacks right into the entire planning process, which is how the entire loop is closed out in itself. But then this whole loop will always continue to be will always be a machine. That means a continual process, and it can only be achieved if all these stakeholders that are involved in the entire value delivery process are able to harmonize their ends. You are able to restrict their fighting itself, so the developers are not constantly fighting the ops people, because the ops feels like they're the one constantly keeping the lights on, and developers want to constantly deliver values. But by the time the two of them to work together to ensure that these values are properly delivered to the end customers, the customers get to see goals, we have customer stickiness, and more revenue comes to the entire process originator primarily. So which is really the more reason why we are in this predominantly. High performance DevOps companies achieve even greater success because of one central thing. They have adopted the harmonization of the core key stakeholders inside the whole entity. The primary things that comes to them out of the box is an increase in their development frequency, because each team gets to focus primarily on what is opportune to do, and they are better at that thing. It's like it's a typical engineering process. Once you are good at doing one particular thing, you're constantly being able to reiterate that same process every single time, and that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing in this entire process in itself. So Another key entity is the faster time to market. You are constantly able to deliver even much values to your customer at every point in time. Customer can be able to be sure that anytime they can lean on you. They are sure that anytime they actually raise an request, they are constantly able to get their response at record time at every point in time, and they are able to deliver even much. You are able to deliver even much value to them, and they can constantly give you more funds to expand your business. We have 7 times lower change in failure because the entire process you have this integrated part of testing into the entire process. So it is quite automated. You are so sure that your system, the entire value that is getting to the end customers is quite quicker, it's quite genuine. You are getting the right value for everything. The customers are getting the value for everything they are getting, and they are sure that your system is bug proofed and is actually much more efficient than systems that are not going through this kind of processes. Okay, sorry for that short. Other key factors include the faster lead time for changes, increased revenue for the end users, and finally, the faster mean time to recovery, which is one of the most important thing eventually in this whole delivery process, because the customers want a situation whereby even if there is problems in the systems you are actually presenting to them, you are constantly able to recover back, and there's no service disruption, and everybody is quite happy at every point in time. How is Microsoft coming into this whole party to ensure that we developers, we operations users are able to get the best of our worlds? We're able to deliver on the values to our customers that we constantly promise them on, and we're able to constantly meet the values we are constantly delivering to our customers. One, they come in in 3 core entities. One, the flexibility, the ability for you to be able to use their entire hybrid environment from the whole cloud environment, being able to use their best entity, which is Microsoft Azure, to be able to deliver even much value by doing other core important features, or let me say delivering better features to your solution, remodernizing your solutions to be able to meet new age requirements primarily, and being able to scale out your services at when due by taking advantage of the higher sparse and SaaS capabilities or opportunities that are quite available inside the community. The power, the ability of their system, because of their strength and because of the investment, the amount of investment they have actually put into making things like this work, is quite incredible. Let me say the world of their the kind of the capacity that they bring in with Microsoft Azure gives you unmatchable performance, scalability, and resilience of your app. So you are constantly sure that every system that you are built to actually take advantage of cloud native capabilities, and is running on their cloud environment, is definitely going to be strong enough to withstand any problems that's coming to you at any point in time. So you are so sure that every value you are delivering out to the community, or every value you are delivering down to your customers, are self-notch, and that is what you really want to put your name on at every point in time as a developer or as a product owner at the end of the day. And most importantly, the openness of their stack, your ability to be able to accept any language stack in the cloud environment, your capability to use any language inside the Microsoft Azure environment gives you the much needed edge over all your competitors at every point in time. And that is the kind of edge you want as a product owner, as a developer, as an operations person, the ability to be able to take advantage of the entire world and actually use this to actually drive the value of your product at every point in time. And you're constantly sure, you are rest assured that your product is going to be eating the market the right way, and your customers are going to get the value. Most importantly, the value delivery stream is continuous in your environment, and this is quite set in an automated scheme. What technologies do you need to support your entire DevOps process? We've been talking since morning about why DevOps, what is DevOps, how DevOps helps community. But then you have to constantly ask yourself, how do I get to this point? What are the things that are really part of this entire DevOps process? Yes, I already understand the fact that DevOps is the next way to go, is the next automation thing that I need to bring into my entire process. How do I actually achieve it? What are the key components or key pillars that make up the entire DevOps process? The three key things that are part of the entire DevOps process includes the continuous integration, the continuous deployment, and finally the continuous learning and monitoring, which is the entire part that constantly gives you the much needed feedback you need to put back into your planning process to ensure that constantly you are you're customer focused and you're constantly delivering values to your customers at every point in time. And improvement in your software, continuous integration actually improves the speed at which you're able to constantly deliver this value, because the developers predominantly just focus on delivering value. They are constantly looking at best ways they can revamp their entire process, trying to write the best of their codes and constantly pushing it to the repo without having to bother themselves about the whole operational part that comes to building the whole system, because there is already configured an already automated pipeline that is already defined inside the repo to automatically build this particular product and actually revert back to them whether the whole process is sufficient enough, it meets all the set down criteria you actually have set put in place for your code before it reach the production environment and things around that. And when you use Azure pipelines or even Jenkins or build apps in the cloud or deploy it to Azure, each time you commit code, it's automatically built and test and detect bugs faster than you can actually do on your own space. So you're constantly sure that your systems are meeting the minimum requirements at every point in time. The continuous deployment primarily focus on how each one of these codes that have met all the build process are constantly being delivered into the production environment at a continuous rate, haven't met all the set down criteria for all these particular codes, primarily by combining the continuous integration with the infrastructure as code, which automatically deploys your applications, which deploys the infrastructure needed by your applications and ensure that your application is sitting right on this production infrastructure at any point in time. We are constantly sure that every one of your deployments meets the needed set down criteria for success in your environment, and you are constantly able to meet these set down goals you have set down for your business at any point in time. You're also able to constantly monitor and learn from the operational process, see where there is defect in production, and you're able to constantly innovate around this, go back to your drawing board, fix all those issues before it becomes a problem, and you're constantly able to deliver even much more value to the customers. And the one central tool that Microsoft has given to us help us to achieve this central suite of capabilities is the Microsoft Azure DevOps tool. The Microsoft Azure DevOps tool is a 5-in-1 tool that takes into consideration every key pillars of the entire delivery process, right from planning up to the continuous integration, up to the continuous deployment, code management, testing, artifact management, and as well trying to manage your entire continuous feedbacks. All these are well integrated together and inside the Azure DevOps environment, including all these tools that are made that goes into the central DevOps platform, helps you to directly tackle each one of the problems that comes inside the whole automation processes that come for each one of the products. We look at each one of them together and look at how each one of these particular tools can be able to help you fast track your entire delivery process and even help you achieve more while focusing on your software processes. The Azure Boards primarily look at how you can track your agile plans faster, set down work items for your teams, and be able to closely collaborate with your teams to look at the velocity and the delivery time span of each one of your teams. Your pipelines directly manage your continuous integration and continuous deployment, which works with any of your languages as we speak today. And you can easily even connect it with the global community of code, which I call you can easily connect it to GitHub, which is the global community of codes, as I call it in my own personal name. And you can also, you don't have to necessarily use the public hosted Git. You can actually have your own self-hosted Git or source control environment, and it will help you for constantly manage the continuous integration and continuous development deployment at every point in time. The Azure repos gives you unlimited privately hosted repo to be able to safely store your code and securely, and you are constantly able to manage your entire processes. Azure DevOps plan gives you DevOps test plan gives you opportunity to constantly iteratively test and ship confidence materials at any point in time. You are so sure that with your test plans put in place, the codes that you're actually delivering into the production environment meets the minimum set down criteria right in your whole environment. And later on in this whole conversation today, I'll just be giving us a glimpse of how it's easy to just create a project and push it to your DevOps environment using the standard skills that we are used to today, and then be able to simply test out how these particular applications can run inside the DevOps environment in itself. And finally, artifacts libraries are things that that's quite common for, especially for product owners that are for us developers that have wealth of artifacts you build over time, NuGet packages that are reusable packages that we have built over time, and we constantly want to expose it to other community engineers who you don't want them to go and reinvent. You haven't created that particular capability. Just a way to for you to actually create your own community and be able to actually contribute back to the entire community, give back to the entire community. You can create constant artifacts, code NuGet packages, store them inside your artifact library, and expose them securely to your set of engineers at every point in time. These entire tools gives you numerous capabilities and enables you to constantly be able to do everything you want to do. The good thing about Azure DevOps environment is the ability to support any language of yours, whether you are a Linux engineer, Windows engineer, Mac OS, limited number of open source limit. You're able to use the best in class of open source services. You're constantly able to run each one of these services at any point in time inside the Microsoft environment. And according to Satya Nadella, who is the CEO of Microsoft, he said in 2018 that judge us by the actions we have taken in recent past, our actions today and in the future. In talking about how the Microsoft community has fully embraced the open source community and constantly working to ensure that every one of their tools they are actually creating is fully open source proof, ensuring that you're able to securely expose the entity inside your community, and the community is constantly able to contribute efficiently to the entire progress of this. And this has actually improved the capabilities of Microsoft over time. And that's whole entity, you can see how this is actually impacting the growth of the Microsoft engine body directly in the community world itself. So with Azure pipelines, you have quite free unlimited build pipelines for your public project. You have up to 10 parallel jobs across Windows, Linux, and Mac OS entities. So you don't have to necessarily have specific engines to be able to run your codes. For example, you have your software engineer who constantly is writing Mac OS, let me say iOS codes, and you don't even have an iOS engine. You can easily run your codes, push it to Azure DevOps environment, and use Mac OS engines to run your codes and efficiently test your codes before you actually ship it out at every point in time. That is just the power of Azure DevOps pipelines just for you. Next, I was talking about is Azure Board, primarily looking at how you can constantly see project inside. You as a product owner, you really want to see how your product is being, how you're tracking on your product, how your work items are being split out in the wonderful Kanban view, which enables you to closely manage your team's performance using the team dashboards. Backlogs are promptly managed and assigned for easy collaborations between each team members. This gives you, there's actually no limit to what you can do with the with teams planning inside the Azure DevOps Board, which gives you that much needed flex, or let me say capabilities, to be able to explore your projects, expand your capabilities, and be able to deliver even much more value at a record time to your customers at every point in time. Azure repos, like I said earlier, it's made up at the background is a privately hosted Git repo for you, securely managed, and you are able to constantly manage your work, manage the collaboration, look at your Git pools, set Git semantics, do code search, and things around API integration into be able to do webhooks calls right from your custom code of custom environment, constantly be able to manage how each one of your Git your entire cost of products are quite constantly being delivered to your customers at every point in time. This is, let me say, the best particular feature for me as an engineer going into Azure DevOps, because the capability for me to be able to manage my entire code, all my code repos, various looking at the amount of projects I'm looking at as an engineering lead, being able to constantly manage each project and see how my team members are able to contribute to each one of the deliveries, manage their codes, and efficiently be able to work collaboratively without having any problems at any point in time. It's just awesome. And that is the power of Microsoft Azure for you. The test plans has greatly improved the testability of each one of the codes, because you're constantly able to create uh, automated tests to each one of the projects you're actually delivering at any point in time. You're so sure that each one of your codes that actually meet AI, you're delivering it to your customers, meets the set down criteria for your deliveries, and you don't have to constantly go back and do your manual testing at every time your developers are releasing any new thing. What is most important for you is to set up your automated test scripts, and that script constantly run at every one of the build cycle, constantly checking each one of the things your engineers, your numerous engineers that you guys are collaborating on the same projects, how these services are constantly delivered into the are constantly delivered into the production environment. I think Azure Artifacts primarily, like I said, is just a securely is your own private artifact library, which enables you to securely expose projects that you have already created as packages to other engineers inside your community or outside your community securely. So you're constantly able to manage your own artifacts registry, do your code versioning at any point in time, and manage each one of these artifacts. And that is actually how NuGet packages are actually created mostly. I'm very sure one of these days we're going to be looking at, in one of this series, we'll be going to look at how NuGet packages are created as an engineer, how you can create your own NuGet package and securely expose it using the powers of Microsoft Azure DevOps environment. And most importantly, this central tool, bringing them all together, gives you the following 5 key pillars. One, you have a fully integrated end-to-end tool chain that is enterprise grade. Imagine an enterprise grade tool chain that can be used for your system. So even if you are just a new beginning entity trying to build out your stuffs out there, but because of the power of Microsoft and the capability of this tool chain, you're able to compete at the level of big enterprises fully using their end-to-end tool chain, and you can be able to actually compete at scale with them. Primarily the scalability of your project teams and their project team size. The capability is quite numerous. You are not restricted by geolocation. You're not restricted by the number of people that are working. You're not even restricted by the number of projects you can run at the same time. You have these capabilities because the system is built to suit for that purposes. The high availability multi-region, like hybrid cloud and on-prem capabilities of the Azure DevOps environment gives you exactly what you need to be able to manage both your codes on-prem securely, or you want to manage it right in the cloud, or even and ensuring that these systems are constantly available without having any downtime at any point in time. And customer support is at its peak because this is a product constantly being managed by Microsoft, and Microsoft is known to constantly support its customers to be able to achieve their aims at every point in time. All this putting all together and trying to put it together with the powers of the Microsoft environment gives you that much skill, the capability to be able to integrate with third-party tools such as Terraform, Ansible, Jenkins, Chef, CodePuppet, which are all infrastructure as a code resources, enables you to constantly deploy your services right inside Azure and be able to constantly monitor them securely and gathering much insight at any point in time that you need them. Self-service test, dev test environment using Azure Lab Services enable you to constantly see what is going on in the environment, orchestrate your pipeline, integrate the APIs, constantly securely manage your environment, and your developers and testers have opportunity to constantly see what they are doing before these codes get to the whole project, get to the production environment. This is most important for code management. Majorly, you want to see your IT organization, IT managers constantly able to manage exactly what is in the environment. So the tech world is no more a black box that you don't know what will happen next time. You want predictability, and this is given to you through the Azure services and Azure DevOps environment. Infrastructure as a code is the various massive entity, and this is quite implemented right inside Azure DevOps environment. Just at the beginning of this session, the anchor was also saying the next session next week will be delivering an insight into how you can easily manage your infrastructure as a code, write write constant scripts that will help you to constantly deliver on the same infrastructure continuously in the production environment and ensure that your code remains just the same. Your infrastructure is maintained actually the level of availability you have actually set you've set in place or put in place, and you are constantly able to meet up with the set down criteria for your environment primarily. Additional things that comes with it is continuous security. Microsoft spent billions of dollars on ensuring that there is security, both physical, perimeter security, and digital security in everything you are taking down to the environment, and up to the level of your services that you're running in the cloud environment. Azure Security Center is a one central tool that enables you to actually have the definite insights into all your environments from a single point of view. And then you are able to know where the problems are in your environment. And this tool is quite integrated and at the core of the DevOps, the Azure DevOps engine in itself, and helps constantly deliver that much needed value right onto you. Faster and much more insight is what Azure monitoring is all about, and it gives you that very much insight. Nobody wants to deploy an application or a service that is not able to constantly track what is going on at any point in time in that environment, and that is exactly what application insight together with log analytics on Azure Monitor does for you right inside Azure, and together with the capabilities that is brought to you by Azure DevOps environment, you're able to constantly monitor and see exactly what is going on in your environment, and you're able to actually see it. But enough of this so much talks around this. I want us to just even have a simple feel of what the Azure DevOps environment, what is the capabilities around it, and then I'll give some time for questions from the audience for you to be able to ask some of the bothering questions that have actually been bothering over time around DevOps, the entire DevOps structures and capabilities like that. So give me some moment while I bring out my DevOps environment primarily. Okay, so I have some of my projects, existing projects, Lagos Bootcamp, and some. I'm just going to create another one right here, right inside this environment. This is the Azure DevOps environment, and this is rightly my own DevOps environment. You can simply go to the link I showed out. I showed in my slide earlier, which will also be made available at the end of this whole session to everyone that's interested in it. To be able to have access to the DevOps, to create your own Azure DevOps organization yourself, and then you can start creating projects, adding values, and adding much entities right onto yourself. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new one, new project, call it learning, and I'm going to make it a private repo because I'm quite much focused about my security. And then I choose the kind of version control I want to use. I love my Git version control, and I really always want to follow that suit. Then I'm going to pick the kind of work item processes I want to follow. I'm an agile-based kind of person, and I always love to actually use agile capabilities, or let me say agile function work item process, primarily managing each one of my projects primarily. So I'm just going to leave it as agile and create. And in the matter of seconds, your full project is created for you, giving you the opportunity to be able to clone the repo, add your project to it, and set up a build process right down onto this. Give me a second. I'm just going to create. So while creating your project, these are your basic information you get to see. Like I said earlier, you have the Azure Boards, which take a click on this will take you to Azure Boards, the repos, the pipeline, the test plans, and the artifacts. And you can see the number of users in your environment. You actually invite a new member um, of your engine. Let me say to actually invite any member of your engineers to your project, all you just need to do is to click on invite. And gives you the opportunity to be able to invite people, and you can add various people to various teams. And if you have this particular person's name in your entity before, you can easily just type their name, like I can do for somebody that I'm actually used to, right? I'll just type his name, and if in case that person is not already in your own organization or inside your own community, all you need to do primarily is to type the email of that particular person right into into actually the box, and an invite will be automatically sent to that particular entity. You see, gives me the opportunity to invite any of the two. And once I click add, an automated email is sent to those people that you're asking them to collaborate with you, and they have direct access to your environment. You can set out your own dashboard at any point in time. The dashboards give you the opportunity to create dashboards to suit your own use case purpose. Want to see the burn down rate of your community, of your entity. Let's say you have a project team and you want to set out the burn down rates, their build history, the chess plan chart, number of codes, things around that over time. These are important insights you constantly want to be able to see by at the look of the dashboard yourself. And you can create multiple dashboards primarily. At the click of the dash, you're able to constantly see the capabilities that, or let me say, a brief summary of what's going on in your project. And is that much level of insight you can actually get from the Azure DevOps environment in itself. From the birds, you are able to create various work items ranging from bugs to epics to features to issues to stacks to text cases and to user stories. And these are all the key entities that comes directly right inside a typical right inside your typical DevOps project in itself. And you can actually create it. And I'll just do a little sample of it, assuming I want to create a task for any members of my team. And I will just see how granular this particular feature helps you to easily manage up to the code commit level. You're able to name the process in itself, assign the users, state make discussions, tell the priority of that particular task you're setting, the estimated number of hours, the number of implementation build, development item, and the related work item, which is more or less like the core code bases that are related to that particular area. You can actually add it to and assign these particular tasks at any point in time. And Azure DevOps environment also gives you the capability of installing extensions at any point in time, because these extensions gives you the capabilities to expand the extent of to which what your Azure DevOps environment can do, and can actually help you take this DevOps environment to be able to integrate with other third-party entities that you have. So, example, Jenkins and Jenkins engine, and a number of other all those kind of other libraries that you can be running in your own environment. Your repos is the home, is primary home to all your projects you're actually setting up. And I'm just going to just quickly create a project. I'll create a project, I'll push it, and we can see how a typical project is actually being managed right from this particular entity in itself. The pipelines gives you the capabilities to be able to configure both self-configuration of a particular, to meet your particular pipeline types. Let's say you have a project type that is, let's say, Java based or a C# .NET based, or you have an Angular project and you really want it manage them, or you can easily just pick your repo type and set up using your knowledge of YAML. If you do, you'll be able to set up on the YAML template to give specific instructions on what you want to do at a particular specific time. I will take you through one of my old projects to show you a typical YAML file, how it looks like, what are the things that are always in. They're just instructions, instructional items that are very much inside your code base to guide your entire process, to guide the system, or then to guide Azure through the entire process of provisioning what it needs to be provisioned to support that particular project you are constantly running in that environment. Your environment is where you set up environmental variables, which is constantly picked at most times. But this is where this is much needed in this new age, because most times we have projects that we are working on, and those projects you really want to actually do like an on-the-fly variable configuration, and you have multiple variables and you don't want to really store it as part of your code base. This can actually be configured as part of your environmental variables and also stored securely inside Azure Vault, Azure Key Vault rather. So at runtime, the key vault is giving that value to the environmental variables is retrieving that value from a key vault and dumping it inside your code base, compiling it together and giving you what you needed. So you are securely transferring your information at every point in time, and you don't have to constantly go and be storing security information right inside your code base, which is not the way to run the 21st century security schemes in your codes primarily. Also, we have the release, which manage your continuous delivery right in point in time. You can have deployment groups to set up scaled deployment, automated deployment. The test plans give you the opportunity to create various test plans of choice based on the kind of tests you're trying running the automated test. You can see the progress report of each one of the tests you are running, the load test, and see the performance of each one of your services at every point in time. And lastly, the artifacts library gives you the opportunity to securely manage code entities, create feeds of your software. You can even connect to external feeds of choice that you're using for entire code base. All these come together, gives you the much needed capabilities right inside Azure DevOps environment. And most importantly, you're sure of security in your environment, and you're sure that things are constantly well built to suit a use case. This is a project that has actually been configured at an earlier time. This is just a simple .NET project pushed right inside the environment. And I'll just walk us through the DevOps pipeline that has been configured. You can create additional pipelines of choice. And you can see the only thing I just said right here is that for every trigger of the pushing, the trigger is the main, is if anybody push everything to the main branch, this whole pipeline is going to be triggered immediately. And it's going to use Ubuntu latest VM image as your pool VM to run your project. And it's going to be looking for the build configuration for release to run this particular project. Then what is it going to do next is to do a typical build configuration. It's going to build your project and configure and stops the entire configuration from there. If I want to do additional things like, okay, release this particular code in the production environment right from this particular product, I can actually do that inside my release pipelines in itself. But most importantly, this all mini instructions that you have seen above gives you the opportunity to be able to build this particular project. In subsequent sessions, you'll be looking at even much more in-depth pipeline instructions that can actually be used for complex projects, some different kind of project. But this particular one is only meant for .NET Core. At the end of the session, I'm going to be uploading a full-fledged information on a Git repo, which will be communicated to quite everyone. And you can be able to have access to this same project, this same pipeline, and use it for your own service. I think at this time, I would love to take in questions, being able to answer questions from the members of the community to understand what are their primary problems, what are the immediate challenges while using, if they have even had opportunities to use DevOps environments and things around that.
Yes. So at this point in time, does anyone have questions for our speaker? Okay. I've not been able to get any question, but I have one for those listening. And if anyone is able to, okay, someone just asked a question. Okay, it says, I want a guideline for beginners that are new to Azure. So, Damilare, is there a particular guideline for beginners that are just probably new to Azure and want to know how the whole DevOps practice work? Damilare, at this point we can't hear you. I think you muted yourself.
Sorry, I'm just quite used to remote
Yes.
meetings majorly.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Majorly, the best beginners content to start with is to go to Microsoft DevOps blog, aka aim.ms/DevOps blog. It gives you the basic information you need to know about DevOps. Also, azure.com/DevOps gives you that much needed information you need. That's the official Microsoft documentation on Azure DevOps. And those are the most important links for you if you are a beginner, primary beginner to Azure DevOps and you want to try it out. Another very key entity you can try out is the Twitter handle of Microsoft Azure DevOps, and that's directly handle of the product team in DevOps in case you have additional things, probably project feature requests you want to make to the Azure DevOps team.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Damilare. We also have another question with one asking, which one should we use, Azure DevOps or GitHub Actions?
Okay, so the question is a funny one. The good thing is this: Microsoft has, in the past couple of years, have actually advanced, and in further adoption of the open source world, has further improved on the capabilities of GitHub, which is why we have what we call GitHub Actions. And GitHub Actions is just, let me say, an extended end of Azure DevOps. Everything you can do inside Azure DevOps, you can do it inside GitHub Actions. Only that GitHub Actions, you still have to write some straight up comments. It's still in the, it's a lot of additional features that are still going to GitHub Actions. And our advisors, if you can start adopting GitHub Actions, it's just the future. GitHub Actions is the future. It has much more awesome capabilities that is coming right into it.
All right, thank you very much for that, Damilare. We have just one more question as well, asking how does HA work in Azure DevOps? By HA, I think he means high
High
availability.
availability.
Yes.
High availability.
Yeah. So how
So
does
I
that
have
work?
availability. So I have availability. We had to look at a lot of things. I have availability is just not one thing that you just configure about. I will just give you from solutions architect's perspective. One, our availability had to be handled from every angle. One, from how you configure the pipelines to be able to deliver your services, how you configure each one of your resources you are provisioning right into the system. You have to manage it from there. One, already spinning up Azure DevOps environment already gives you that scaled platform, so you can bring in as much entities right into your system in itself. But managing where the infrastructures that are quite created from your Azure DevOps environment, those are where you put your concentration of high availability into. So you have to ensure that the architecture you're actually deploying must have been built to actually answer the question of high availability of your services, most importantly, and those fundamentals are right put in place while creating your YAML file, your instructional YAML file or let me say your YAML script that's going to run that is going to be executed at the end of the process.
All right, that's a great one. That's a great one. I see we haven't really. Okay, someone just asked one more question. It says, which tooling is more popular in the Nigerian African context? Microsoft DevOps tools or open source tooling like Jenkins? So
Okay,
the
let
person is
me.
asking which one is more popular.
Okay, so from my immediate understanding, or let me say immediate experience of the open source of the community of the tech space in Nigeria, enterprise focus more on enterprise tools, while other entities try to focus more on open source entities. The truth is this: the adoption of Azure DevOps, even though it's coming up, uh, people still use more of open source tools in this community. That's why I would say Jenkins and the likes is still more common primarily. But then that is where the old capability, the good nitty gritty of Azure DevOps comes in, because you can actually use your Jenkins right inside Azure DevOps.
All right, that's great. That's great. So, I have a question for those who have been listening. If you are able to answer this question, there is probably like some package or something for you. While the speaker was talking, he made mention of some 5 aspects in Azure DevOps. I'm going to give 2 of those aspects or features that make up Azure DevOps. And I'm hoping that the first person to answer the remaining 3 will get something from me in particular. So the first one he mentioned was Azure Boards, and the second one he mentioned was Azure Pipelines. So the first person to answer the remaining 3 features gets something from me. So I'm actually looking at the chat, and some other organizers are also looking at the chats to see who wins this. So who is going to be the winner for this evening? Anyone? Okay, we got VJ who says test plans, repo, and artifacts. All right. Funny enough, I see he's the only one that answered. Wow, that was a nice one. That was a nice one. That was a nice one, VJ. So VJ is our winner for this night. VJ, maybe you may drop your contacts or reach us on our group, and we have something for you. We have something for you. All right. So on a final note, Damilari, do you have anything to just round up this session on a final note?
Okay, thank you very much. Just want to thank everybody for joining the session. It's quite awesome to see our tech community quite growing. I want to implore everybody to try automation. Automation is the word. If you want to deliver more value to the end users, you really want to ensure that you insert automation inside your entire process. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Damilari. So, while we round up the session for today, I also like to inform the community that we will also be having a class for next week, or let me say a session for next week. And We will be basically focusing on virtual network for the Azure Administrator Live study, and that will be happening by 3 p.m. And also by 6 p.m., also the same day, that should be the 29th of May, we'll also be looking at Terraform with Azure DevOps. And we have one of our MVPs in the house who is going to be taking us on that, Paul Oyemakinwa. So please do not forget to join in next week. You can also follow our handles um, to get more information on the trainings we are going to be holding this session. At this point, I'll be rounding up the session for today, and I hope to see you all next week.